Hey, how are you? Okay, I've been away for a little bit up in Scotland, but I couldn't. Obviously, loads has happened in sex education in the last few days, and I couldn't not just make a quick video on the subject of choking, of course, and all the other little bits and bobs that are going on. I've been a bit snowed under with parents, obviously, because clearly finally getting a bit of discussion about all the stuff that's going on in sex education in schools has, made a lot of traffic, which is great. And, that's kind of kept me a bit busy. But anyway, a really important report which came out from this new organisation, which is the New Social Covenant, which is what is being taught in relationships and sex education in our schools, which is a little joint venture with a couple of MPs, Miriam Cates, obviously, who's been absolutely fantastic. I'll drop a link in the bottom for you. So basically, that I've been talking about this issue with regard to sex education for some time, and I actually had to go back and watch some of my old videos, which honestly I could happily delete them. They're so cringe, but we live and learn. Doing this stuff on the internet is not easy. It's just so awful and cringe, but they're a record, so I'll leave them there. Nevertheless, that I've talked about BIS UK before, so I just want to do a quick refresher course for the people on Twitter, especially loads of journalists who are saying, this is not happening in schools, you're basically lying. So I'm going to just go back over very briefly some of the reasons why we brought this to people's attention and the very specific points of evidence that came up along the way.
Graphic lessons on oral sex, how to choke your partner safely, and 72 genders. This is what passes for relationships and sex education in British schools. Across the country, children are being subjected to lessons that are age inappropriate, extreme, sexualising, and inaccurate, often using resources from unregulated organisations that are actively campaigning to undermine parents. This is not a victory for equality, it is a catastrophe for childhood. Will my right honourable friend honour his commitment to end inappropriate sex education by commissioning an independent inquiry into the nature and extent of this safeguarding scandal?
Can I say I share my honourable friend's concerns and thank her for her work in this area. That's why I've asked the Department for Education to ensure that schools are not teaching inappropriate or contested content in RSHE. Our priority should always be the safety and well-being of children, and schools should also make curriculum content and materials available to parents. As a result of all of this, we are bringing forward a review of RSHE statutory guidance, and we'll start our consultation as soon as possible.
I mean, that I've been banging on for quite some time about the inaction of the Department for Education and Ofsted. And one of the things that was somewhat amusing to witness was basically Gillian Keegan's gaslighting of the nation, saying that she had no knowledge of this, and it was all highly shocking. And oh dear, well, I have no idea what's going on. And then her husband, Michael Keegan, as you can see in these screenshots, riding in on his little charger to rescue her, going, oh, this is terrible, you all need to back down. Clearly the guy, I mean, this is unprecedented, that husband of a Secretary of State to ride in on his charger to try and save the day and to shut down dialogue and parents raising concerns, and rightly the good baronesses challenge him on this, and it was just painful and amusing to watch, basically. At the risk of spending absolutely hours and hours deconstructing this guy as an operator and his website, which I could do, I'm going to try and keep it as brief as possible. He has had exposure to kids for a very long time. He is working in schools, in the state system, in the private system, in schools, colleges, youth clubs. He has full exposure to them. He sells resources. He, goes in under the brand of BIS UK, and he he has a disclaimer on his website which says that it is for kids of aged 14 and above. In my other video, I talk about the fact he had backlinks. He did have backlinks to another website which was working with children who were aged 10 and above. But as we all know, because this is the way that social media works, if you are in contact with someone who comes in to talk to you, you go and research them. You don't go, oh, this is not for me because it has an age limit on the page. You will travel around. You will also go forward into other links that they suggest on their website. And that's the whole point. Now, when we all did a lot of work on this website, Justin then scrubbed his website clean. And I know this because it was all archived. So I'm going to show you some of the archives that were made of the website before he scrubbed it clean, to illustrate what it was that all of these people interested in children's safeguarding were talking about. And he had been teaching thousands and thousands and thousands of children, and they all had the opportunity to be exposed to this material, and that is what, on the basis of which a lot of these parental concerns were founded. This is very important. Now, all of the issues of many different lobby groups, which are all operating, doing similar things, and he's not the only one. And if I have time, I'll point to some of those too. But certainly, and there has been a proliferation of single operators doing this sort of work. And he also works with another person called Meg John Barker, and they also have forward links to their work, and that is similarly adult sex advice. Now, one of the things that I found on Justin's website when I first did this, my other video, was an active porn link, because of course, if you're talking about sex and you have many different blogs, opportunists will come along and try to attach different bits of traffic, and so backlinks and forward links are incredibly important in social media. You know, I'm an old person, and even I know that. And so I went through his blogs and got redirected straight into a porn site, you know, with all of the things that you would expect. One of the really important discussions, which is underpinning a lot of the concerns which are, you know, running in all different directions, is this issue around pornography and the normalization and teaching of, you know, porn is cool, porn is fine, and that's certainly one of the key tenets in Justin's work. And then it goes on into his website, where he then starts to disassemble in a number of different areas and breaking down all of the different aspects of porn. And I'll give you some examples of those with regards to things like restraining people, choking, deep throat, coming in people's faces, various aspects of sadomasochism, etc. In this one, we've got, if you're going to put your hands on someone's body to restrain them, start really slowly and tightly. You could practice this on your own body, or talk about how you're going to do this before the scene starts. And of course, scene is a key, you know, a term used by people involved in sadomasochistic sex or kink. Giving the opportunity to shake their heads, basically teaching them about the different, you know, facets and language used, you know, warning signals, amber, red, etc., safe words. So if you're putting your hands or wrists or arms, legs, grabbing their hair and slowly increasing the grip rather than doing it suddenly, particularly if you're new to this. But then in the next one, he goes on about the choking. And I think this is the one which is being talked about particularly a lot on Twitter and by journalists who want evidence of where this is being taught and in which school. Here he gives some advice, and obviously he says, you know, that this is where someone puts their hand on another person's neck, and it's important to make sure that you're not actually choking them. You know, no shit, Sherlock. Restricting someone's breathing is incredibly dangerous. Well, you know, there's been many deaths actually of women, particularly caused in this by men choking them. People do practice what is known as breath play. Imagine teaching this to a child, for God's sake. But that is strictly for people who know what they are doing. Even then, it can still be really dangerous. I mean, it's just abhorrent. It just makes me actually feel physically sick that you would actually have access to my child in that. You know, you would visit them and teach them have a little lesson on, you know, your little nonsense gender identity, and then they would go, "Oh, Justin, he's so cool," and then they go and sit and, you know, look you up on their phone, and get through to all of this nonsense. I mean, I actually want to vomit reading this. If you're both really into doing this, start very lightly and gently. This gives the person being held the chance to tell you how it feels. The hand should not be pressing on the windpipe heavily, if at all. It might be safer just under the jaw or on the chin or up on the back of the head. For other practices and how they can be done more safely and consensually, check out the What is Sex article. And there's a lot of links that go through at this stage where, you know, before he got rid of his detritus. And I'll keep picking out a few for you. Yeah, it's another one about kink. Sorry, my eyes are going all over the place because I'm looking at various screenshots on my computer. Before you do any kink activities with anyone, it's really important to talk about things that you want to do. 14 kids of 14. Restraint, pain, you know, marking, discipline, humiliation, being controlled. I actually am just feeling incredibly nauseous reading this. Sharp edges, cable ties can have sharp edges and more likely to cause damage. They're also difficult to take off without using scissors. Also, something more like the tie of a bathrobe or t-shirt pulled over their heads, or an old pair of leggings and some cheap cling film, maybe. I'm actually just incredibly sad for the next generation of young people with this level of messaging that they're getting from these adults. So one of the links that I followed from his site took me to this place, Love Uncommon, where they said, oh, you might get a bit more information. So this again goes on to start with porn, and whilst they will often go, oh, this website is for people over 18. I honestly don't believe that disclaimers like that are, you know, they're merely for their own legal protections, but they don't show a moral compass, do they? Because clearly children are dancing all over the internet, and if you say, you know, here's a link for you to get a bit more information, then they're going to follow this. So, you know, it's impossible to negotiate sex, kink or sexuality without a degree of emotional risk, and sharing porn with a partner is no exception. And then they basically go on to just talk about how groovy porn use is. Given the ready availability and consumption of porn, it's a great place to start. And after all, it's a big part of many people's sexuality. It can help you work out what you're into and give your partner a bigger picture to work with. You know, I mean, I'm going to do a separate video on porn anyway, and try and deconstruct some of the issues that I think are relevant with regards to sex education, children and porn. I'm just looking at this explanation that Justin gave on the issue of double penetration to these children, and this is characteristic of his writing, where he takes a kind of humorous approach to it, and, you know, clearly says it was a little bit difficult, probably. I don't think there've been any reliable surveys on about how many people have tried doing this at home, but I guess it's something that's a bit more popular in porn. Having said that, it's not something that all performers are into, according to a study. And the reason it's something that most people do is that it's probably really difficult to do, and you'd have to be particularly aroused. And you probably need quite a bit of chat. Are you ready? So I'm going here and you're going there. Touch, ouch, you're standing on my leg. Oh, where did the lube go? Oh, all very jolly. and absolutely no warnings about the medical dangers and potential traumas of doing something so, you know, stratospherically um, dangerous, basically. I mean, this is one that I have to come back to because I remember last time it was particularly difficult to go through. How do I learn to deep throat so that he won't leave me? My boyfriend loves it, but I'm scared to vomit. Please help me with guidance. I'm now scared that he would end up looking for another girl. Thanks for your question. So he starts off talking about consent and power and the issue of maybe, you know, if you're worried about him leaving you, then you could dump him first. So he tackles that. I mean, if my daughter were talking to a strange man on the internet about this, that's the first thing that's in my head. But power to you, though. It could also be that you're less confident generally and rely on the relationship a lot. So he tries that part. So then we get to the bit that starts to really freak me out. Has he just expressed a preference? So let's say that your boyfriend isn't making you feel like you have to learn about deep throat, but simply just telling you what he loves. It's okay for people to have preferences for what they would like and what they would not like, and that goes for you too. So here we come down to, can he build trust? Can you chat about your concerns? We know that if you're worried about vomiting, but are you worried about anything else? If you were to do this, are there things that he could do that would make this easier? For example, checking in with you first during it, slowing everything down, not expecting it to go brilliantly the first time, giving you time to build up to it. So essentially trying to give advice about how to engage in what I personally think is a highly abusive act. And that is my line on it. I should probably add at the end of this little section, he does say, so please consider not doing this, especially because if you're scared of him leaving you. Try to think of yourself as an independent human with your own wants, desires, and needs. You're not on this planet just to please men, so please don't make yourself be sick just to avoid him leaving you. I think this is one of the issues, really, isn't it? If you're embracing that porn is an okay and cool thing to teach to children, because let's remember, people under 18 are children, then you're basically opening the door to all of this. So basically, within each of the different aspects of this website, he's basically giving a whole load of advice, normalizing all of these different aspects of kink, BDSM, egregious pornified acts to children. And that, people, is where the issue comes from, because this guy and people like him are going into schools, peddling their wares, and children are accessing all of this information, backlinks, forward links to different organizations.